Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tyler Waldrop with Bama Insider, and I'm here today with Tony Tsoukalis to kick off our new 20 for 20 series. Tony, why don't you explain that to everybody?
Yeah, so for the 20 for 20 series, what we're going to do is we're going to take 20 questions for the 2020 football season and kind of answer them. We're just coming up with 20 questions that, we're curious about. We hope that you're curious about. And then we'll either debate or sometimes we might have the same view, but we'll also want your view on the message boards as well. And through the video comments too. That's why we're doing it on video as well. Just kind of having a discussion about 20 topics that we think concern Alabama football. For some of them will be about the draft, some of them will be about the team itself, but really 20 questions, concerning Alabama football, most of them relating to the next season.
Yeah, and I think, where we really wanted to start is the topic that we're thinking about and talking about just in our free time. Where's Tua going to get drafted? Is Tua going to slide in the draft? Is where we really wanted to start. So, Tony, do you think Tua, because of the injury history or anything else, do you think he's going to slide, or you think he's going right at the top, first couple picks?
There's been a lot of talk of him sliding, and that's, kind of interesting. It's been kind of expected in a way as well, because I think, there was always that expectation that, maybe a team, maybe this is all just a big smoke screen, with all the uncertainties around his health. There was always a thought that, there could be this panic of him sliding in the draft. I don't see it, though. I really think if there's a better chance of him going, for a team having to trade up from him, for example, him going at 2, 3, or 4 than there is at him slipping out of the top 10. I know that there's been a few people that have said that, he will slip out of the top 10, or, it'll be irresponsible to draft him in the top 10. I just don't see it. I think teams they panic when it comes to quarterbacks, and when they feel like they're going to miss out, they oftentimes trade too much or get them higher in the draft. And I just don't think, we've all seen how talented Tua is. I just don't see him slipping out of the top 10.
So let me start off and say Tua should. If I was an NFL GM, I would draft Tua in the top 5. Absolutely. But I do want to kind of counter. So you think Tua is more likely to go 2, 3, or 4 than maybe like 11, 12, 13, 15?
Yeah, I don't see him going outside of, the lowest I can see him really going is like a 7, because I think at that point you're going to have teams, it's going to be a free-for-all trading to get him. The teams like maybe the Raiders or the Patriots at that point probably have to give up a little bit less than they would to get into the top 5. And I think that becomes a doable thing. So if you're looking at, like, from a Patriots standpoint, maybe if he's at 7 or 8, I think at that point maybe they start thinking, like, well, hey, we can do this. This is a feasible next option. Whereas in the top 5, I don't really think they think that they have the pieces to do that, or even are willing to do that. Not just the Patriots, but other teams that need quarterbacks. The later it gets, the more feasible it is to trade for him.
Yeah, I agree with some of what you're saying. The later he slips in the draft, if Tua does slip at all, it is a lot easier for teams to trade up to 8 than it is for teams to trade up even from like 10 to 4, 10 to 5. Like 20 to 8 is a lot easier, I think. But I don't know. So 2 days ago, I would have completely agreed with everything you just said. There's no way Tua doesn't slip out of the top 5 or 6, but I don't know. I've been listening to, what some NFL decision makers have said publicly. I've been reading some stories from reporters that have interviewed GMs or that have, been involved with the draft process for years. And, this is a weird year. We've got a pandemic. I haven't left my house in, I think, 6 days, 7 days, maybe, like at all. Teams can't get their doctors in to even just see Tua in person. And when Saban spoke, he said that for Tua and other guys, they got to just send their medicals and just try to talk to teams. But, if I'm going to draft my franchise quarterback, yeah, I do kind of get why there's some uncertainty when they're like, well, my doctor can't get in there and give me the all clear. We're just looking at these x-rays and whatever these other doctors are passing along. And I think everybody sort of wants the peace of mind with a top draft pick, especially a quarterback that says, hey, this guy's going to be okay for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
See, but I think most people have come to the understanding that he's more or less healthy with the hip. I think it's the overall injury history that you'd be concerned of. Is he brittle? Is he
Mm-hmm.
is he just going to break a different bone each year? There's really no way to tell. But I mean, you look at that uncertainty. Let's just say he goes. Let's say he gets away from LA at 6, right? So Cincinnati's picking a quarterback, and in this little mock draft we're doing right here, Miami probably goes with Herbert at 5. So then you've got, I think it would make sense for the Chargers to pick him at 6. But let's say they go with Jordan Love. Okay,
That would be crazy.
that would be nuts. And I just don't see that being unless the Chargers were going to go not with a quarterback. I don't see them picking Jordan Love over Tua. I don't know that Jordan Love is – you're still having a lot of chances with him in terms of is he the real deal? Maybe it's not an injury uncertainty, but, I mean, at least with Tua, you've seen what he can do more on a football field. Jordan Love had a great, junior season and then didn't do as well the following year this last season. I know he lost a lot, but there's still that uncertainty as well.
I would say anyone that drafts Tua, obviously you're drafting Tua not on maybe what you've seen lately or because obviously you haven't seen much. You've seen him do the virtual simulated pro day as much as he could, but you're not drafting Tua based on anything you've seen in the last couple of months. You're drafting him on his potential. And I think that's what you're doing if you draft Love or Herbert to an extent, probably. You're basically just drafting any of those 3 guys on this is what we think he could be at his best.
I mean, for Tua to go out of the top 10, I think you just really got to have zero faith in this quarterback class, which you can argue that this quarterback class is not as good as it might look. Maybe it's not worth having 3 top 10, quarterbacks. But I just don't see any way that 3 quarterbacks aren't picked in the top 10. I just really feel like there will be 3 quarterbacks picked in the top 10. And if Tua is not one of them, I'll be shocked. So just at the nature of how quarterbacks are picked in the draft, like I said before, the way the teams, typically like to panic, this kind of seems like a smokescreen. I think, a team like Miami, I don't think they're gonna pass them up, and if they do, I can't see both them and the Chargers passing them up.
Absolutely. So, if you had to put all your money on one team, would it be the Dolphins?
I think it's the Dolphins, and I think if you look at a team like that, I mean, they can still get better, and if Tua, they have 3 first-round picks. Am I right? So, I mean, Tua could be a bust. Yeah, Tua could be a bust, and they could still get 2 first-round picks and still make their team better, and then maybe have to address the quarterback. You never want to be wrong with a quarterback, but, I mean, it's not – I guess when you have 3 first-round picks and you do need a quarterback, I think it makes a little bit more sense to draft one. Like I said, they could go with Herbert if they feel like Herbert – I could maybe get the argument that Herbert is a better pick than Tua because if you feel better about it. I don't feel that with Jordan Love. I feel like he's the next step down. And I'm not even saying that he's a bad prospect or not even a first-round prospect, but I don't think you need to go into the top 10 to get Jordan Love. And, the only way I see Tua slipping is if maybe Jordan Love goes before him, and I can't bring myself to think that.
Yeah, for the record, I agree with you. I think the Dolphins have sort of, Tua's injury is kind of awkward for them because the Dolphins basically set themselves up at the beginning of last season to get Tua. We can talk about whether they tanked or didn't tank the season, but when you trade away that many assets that you have for draft capital in the future season, you're setting yourself up to really build something, starting with the quarterback. And
that's the thing where I think that I think there's a more chance that they'll actually trade up for Tua than there is for that, he'll slip away. And I think, if I was a Dolphins, I wouldn't be showing a lot of interest into it either because I'd like to keep all 3 of my first round picks. Yeah. It would be very unfortunate for what the Dolphins were able to build up in this year's draft for them to have to kind of flush that to pick the quarterback that they wanted. So, I mean, maybe it's a case of if the Dolphins like Herbert, they're okay with somebody jumping them for Tua, and then they'll take Herbert at 5. That I could see happening, but in that case, you're still getting 2 in the top 5. So, I think that's probably more the case. I think maybe the Dolphins are okay with not trading up. Maybe they want they're okay with Herbert, and they're just gonna say if you want Tua, it's 1A and 1B for us. So we'll take one.
You have to beat us. Yeah, you have to trade up. Yeah, I could see that. For me personally, just to make it clear, I do think the Dolphins are going to take two at five. I couldn't imagine passing.
You think it'll be
And
at
yeah, I think the
5?
Dolphins will take two at five. And I think Tua will still be there. I can't. Teams can trade up. I wouldn't be shocked. But I do. History does tell us that it takes a tremendous amount of assets to move into the top five. Even if you're 6 or 7 or 8. So it's hard for me to imagine that, especially during this kind of weird, our team's going to want to be risky during, when they can't evaluate prospects. So I do think Tua will probably go at 5 to the Dolphins. I also think that might be a terrible decision. We don't know how Tua is going to do. Injuries might, he might be one of those guys that just becomes a what if. I wouldn't predict that right now, but I think he's worth it. I think even if Tua goes through, plays 4 seasons and he's out, Andrew Luck style, just because the injuries pile up, I think it's worth it because I think Tua's the type of quarterback that, you're going to get not even once every year in the draft. So I think based on his potential, I say you just roll the dice with him, see if it works. And if it doesn't, then you'll get another shot at the top of the next couple of years drafts.
And if you're Miami, I mean, now the strike while the iron's hot. I mean, the Patriots seem like they're a mess. The Jets are the Jets. And I don't think Buffalo has done enough to really separate themselves. I mean, right now, I'd almost say Buffalo's the team to beat in that division. It's right now, it's an awful division. So if you could get a difference maker, you have a chance to really kind of be the better team over the next who knows how many years until, the rest of the teams can kind of find their quarterback. So I think you're right. I think if Tua can be really special, I don't even know if he plays next year. That could be another discussion. Does he play next year? But even if he doesn't, even if you play ultra cautious with him, I think he has probably the highest ceiling of any of these quarterbacks. He might have a bigger risk than most of them, but I think, in my opinion, he has the higher ceiling. So, I mean,
absolutely. I'd include Joe Burrow in that
I
as
think so
well.
too. I think if you were to say both of them were healthy for the rest of their career, I think I'd take Tua. I really like what he offers and I like Joe Burrow, but I think those are the definite 2 best picks. And I really think that Tua could be good for, 10, 15 years in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tua's thing, very few people have posted any knocks on Tua's talent. Uh, Everything you read and everything you hear and all the reports circling around, it's all, just the medical issue, which is why I said I could see him slipping. But even then, I wouldn't do it. I say you roll the dice. You hope that the medicals are as good as, Tua's camp is saying that he really is 100% or near 100% right now. And I say you just roll the dice because absolutely. I mean, if Tua is healthy enough to play at his potential, whatever team he goes to, you got to think they're at least in the playoff picture for the next decade.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that maybe the only thing you can say is maybe change his style of play a little bit where he's not as reckless or he can be a little bit more disciplined. I think if there is a chance of him being a little brittle, I know there's things he can't change about a person's personality, but maybe kind of rein him in just a little bit to increase his sustainability in the league. But that might just be a thing of also more discipline, is going to translate better into the league. But as far as arm talent, I think he's the best player in the draft.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good place to end. We both agree, highest ceiling. So Bengals can take Joe. The Dolphins should take Tua.
Or somebody trading up and taking Tua, yeah.
I think that's a good place to stop for today, though. We'll be back tomorrow with our number 2 in our 20 for 20 series.